Hi there, I'm Bishop Paul Erickson of the Greater Milwaukee Synod, and I'm sitting here with my friend and colleague, Bishop Yehiel Curry from the Metropolitan Chicago Synod. Good to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So we're having a conversation at the invitation of our mutual friend Rhonda Hill about racism, which is, as we were just talking about, it's a huge topic, and we could probably talk and probably need to talk at a significant length over a long period of time about how our own experience with racism has impacted who we are as children of God and as leaders. But let me just invite you, Yehiel, if you could just reflect a little bit on how racism has impacted your own journey as a child of God, as a Lutheran, and now as a bishop. That's a big question, so pick it up wherever you'd like.
Yeah, I know our time is limited, so I'll focus on this one instance that really stands out for myself. It was 2009. Had just been ordained. I had come in through the teen program, had been doing local work in the Chicago area, but many people in a larger church didn't know me. And I was going to my first youth gathering. It was in New Orleans. We sent 2 leaders and children ahead of time. I was coming a little bit later, so I flew in. I was there for the pre-event, the mile event, and I came in at around 11, and I was the male chaperone for the male boys. So they were eagerly anticipating me arriving. I remember going into the hotel, and there was this process of all these things that you do for a youth gathering. You sign these agreements and you check in and you do all these things. So I called and had one of the young guys meet me downstairs. When I arrived, I didn't have a room key. I didn't know what was happening. And when I arrived, the kid said that they were hungry. They hadn't eaten. And I said, well, we got a little time. Let's go run across the street. And was told that this question, I didn't have on an armband, who was I? And I remember explaining, I'm a pastor. And the question was, with who? I said, with the ELCA. You're definitely not a pastor with the ELCA. It was a difficult moment because it was in front of one of the youth. I was being told that I could not leave the hotel. Definitely couldn't leave with the kid because it was after hours. But again, I just arrived. I didn't know it. It was my first youth gathering. So then I left, went and got what I needed. Then I returned, and I was followed all the way up to my room with this whole notion that I had snuck into the hotel, that I wasn't supposed to be there, and I was with this kid who had on the wristband, and the kid was trying to sneak me in. The next morning, I was summoned to the office where I was lectured to about how I done all these things to break the rules for what it meant to be a part of this community. It was my first time. I didn't even know what a youth gathering was. My youthfulness had leaders believing that I wasn't the pastor. I think because I wasn't known, I was being questioned about where I was pastoring, what city. I wasn't being given the benefit of the doubt, especially what I was witnessing happening in other spaces. It was really hurtful. It was a hurtful time for me because while it was an event for leaders of color, I was being lectured by people who didn't look like me and sharing with me their roles and how they were involved with churchwide, and it ended up being a misunderstanding. but you can't undo what the young man witnessed to receive his pastor, to be able to say, I got the room key. There are some things that clearly could have been done differently. And I just remember this feeling of just not being given the benefit of the doubt. Not being, my word wasn't, I just wasn't believed. And so to be so excited to be at this event for the first time, I felt, because I was new, because I was younger, and I didn't look like the other pastors of the ELCA, and we kind of know all of the new pastors of color. I wasn't given the benefit of the doubt. And so I reflect on that time, and I know we talk a lot about faith, and it took me a moment to get past it, but my response was, I remember writing to Churchwide about the incident, and someone asking me, well, would you like to be part of the planning of the next one? And that was one of those weird moments for me, that the things that I critique, that I shine a light on, I also have to be willing to help usher in some of this change that I talk about. And so it was really pivotal because in 2010 or 11, I started working with the committee to start planning the next one, and ended up being one of the speakers in 2012 for the youth gathering. But yeah, that's something I will always remember. The young man who I was involved with, we will always remember. And that was really our introduction to the youth gathering.
Well, thank you. It's so helpful for me as a white male Christian with the last name of Erickson. I have always fit in the ELCA. And so it's really important for people like me to stop and to listen to stories from people outside of that experience. Because when I show up at an event, everyone says, oh, do you know so-and-so? Do you know so-and-so? Okay, and now all these connections get lifted up about how you fit in. I went to the 2012 youth gathering with a youth from the church where my wife was serving as pastor. I was on synod staff in Minnesota, and we would walk down the streets, and those big 30,000 kids taking over downtown New Orleans. And there are all these groups of people walking, and you just know they're Lutheran because that's what's going on that week. And it seemed like every other group that would come by, I would know someone. And pretty soon the kids in my group, they're like, dude, you know everybody. Like, no, I've just been around. I'm old. I've been around for a long time, et cetera, et cetera. But that's just the way that these little messages reinforce time and time and time again to people who look like me, who have my heritage and my, whatever, that I belong, that I fit in. And so I need to stop and hear those stories that just because the system worked for me doesn't mean it works. That the system itself, and that system is not just from the top down, it's just all the little ways in which I think racism and prejudice reinforces these beliefs that some people are on this side and some people are on that side. And I think the gospel calls us to say, ho, slow down. If the system doesn't work for everyone, then the system is sick. And that's a hard move for people in my position, white male who grew up in this church. Dad was a pastor, been Lutheran long back as I can know that the system is built to benefit people like me. But that doesn't mean that it's right and it's good and it's holy and just. So I think we do need to stop and take stock of when is that system broken? Because if it's broken for you, it's broken for me.
Amen.
Amen.